All right, very interesting article here on Boxing Scene. I'm just going to read the headline for you here. So, Tyson Fury talks retirement, says boxing is more addictive than any drug. In this article, they're quoting Tyson Fury from the interview he recently gave with Queensberry and Dev Sani, and it's the subject of retirement. Now, the person who wrote this article, because it was only released today, says here, for years Fury has mentioned retirement as a way to grab attention or maintain relevance, but it's only when he sits down and talks about it now as a man of 34 that his words carry any sort of weight. I just want to interject. It's Fury's birthday today, many happy returns. He's now 36. So you're not only off, you're way off there with the 34, 36-year-old man now as of today. He's after all coming off his first professional loss, a decision defeat to Alexander Usyk in May, and will therefore know that he is just one or two fights more away from perhaps being forced to retire against his will. No longer then is the prospect of retirement a promotional tool or toy which he can play and use to distract from other issues. Instead, he approaches his mid-30s. Retirement for Tyson Fury is something he can now smell and taste. It's very interesting, very interesting. So, there's an interview here he has with Dev Sani, with Queensberry Boxing. We all know Dev. We like Dev. Shout out to Dev. We got a lot of time for Dev. We have a lot of time for him. Met him several times. Good guy. A lot of time for Dev Sani. Very good host. Got to quote Tyson Fury here. He says, I've been in love with boxing for such a long time, from being a little boy, and now I'm 34 years old. I'm assuming this interview was done a while ago. Because he's 36 now. So, this was obviously done a while ago. I'm probably at the end of my career in the next few years, he told Dev Sani of Queensberry Boxing. It's been a love-hate relationship. It's been toxic at times. When it's good, it's very good. When it's bad, it's very toxic. It's a very interesting way of talking about it there, to be honest with you. When it's bad, it's been toxic. I wonder what he means in that regard. Is it the sense of that when it's good, when he's winning, when training's going well, when there's no niggles or injuries, it's good? When it's bad, maybe coming into the gym out of shape, not able to really motivate himself, but knowing he has to do it. Maybe he'd rather spend more time with his family. I'm only making assumptions there, but it's a very interesting way of saying it. So I'm in that relationship, and I don't just abandon things. I try and make things work, and that's where we are at the minute. We've been in this romantic relationship since I can remember, since I was a child, and now I'm a fully grown adult with a family of his own. It's like, do I abandon it or do I not? I want to walk away. I wanted to walk away a lot of times, but it always drags me back. It's like a massive drug addiction, said Fury. I know it's an addiction and I'm an addictive person. I wouldn't disagree with that. Certainly you've seen that not just in boxing, in other aspects of Tyson Fury's life, the alcohol, the food, stuff like that. So I agree with him there wholeheartedly on that one. Boxing is an addiction. It's not my best friend. It abuses me. When I come in the gym, it abuses my body, my mind, my soul. But afterwards, I feel like it takes me to ecstasy. The rush is unbelievable. It gives me the biggest high ever, but it also gives me the lowest low as well. Boxing is even more addictive than any drug ever. You can't let it go. One day, of course, we will have to. He will have to let go boxing, and he will, in the process, perhaps then realize why retirement, the very idea of it, is not something that should ever be trivialized or used for anything other than what it is supposed to represent. I would assume that last bit is just chucked in there from the writer or whoever did this. It's very interesting what Tyson Fury has to say there. It's really interesting, quite frankly. You're just going back to kind of some of the things. We've been in a romantic relationship since I was a young man, now a fully grown adult. Do I walk away or do I not? I wanted to walk away a lot of times, but it always drags me back. I don't disagree with what the guy who wrote this article is saying, where he said that there have been times Fury has done it just for reasons, maybe to keep himself relevant and stuff like that. But I remember when he fought Dillian Whyte. And I'll tell you why that fight always kind of sticks with me. Not necessarily the fight itself, but how he reacted after the fight. Where he was really, I'm pretty sure he did actually say he was retiring, this, that, and the other. And people have heard it so many times from Tyson Fury that, it kind of just, yeah, Fury's saying, yeah. He did have, for me, in that Dylan White fight, post fight, it did sound almost real. Like you could tell that with that one, it was kind of more. There's a bit of seriousness to that. And I've often speculated that maybe originally his plan was to maybe just pack it in and call it a day at that point, because he'd headlined Wembley Stadium in front of 90 odd thousand fans. He defended his title. He'd come back from everything he'd come back from 2015 to 2018 to become heavyweight champion of the world again, to defend it in Britain at Wembley Stadium of all places, a place that Anthony Joshua, his rival, had arguably made a second home at one point. Now Fury is the guy doing that. That would have been a great way to leave. You might not have been undisputed, but it would have been a great way to leave when you're undefeated. And I kind of always felt like maybe he was serious. I think he even vacated or restricted the Ring magazine title because he had that at the time. And then he comes back and he fights Derek Chisora, defends his title, his WBC title. And I kind of at that point was like, I wonder, is Fury, is he retiring without saying it from, how would I explain it, testing himself? Is he just looking for these fights that are kind of gimme fights and will make him a lot of money, like the Chisora trilogy and like the Ngannou fight? Because when you see how he reacted in especially that first press conference with Alexander Usyk, he almost had this just disdain that, why am I even here? Why am I doing this? And the way in the build up to that Usyk fight, he was listing off these reasons. That bizarre press conference he did in Morecambe, where he literally did a press conference to say, this is why Usyk can't beat me, where you have no member of it was sold as a Fury Usyk press conference with no member of Team Usyk there, which was bizarre. I've always wondered, was that the case? It's interesting what he says though. It's like a massive drug addiction. I know it's an addiction, and Fury is speaking from a point of experience because he has had plenty of problems in the past. They're well documented. We all know about that. No one's disputing that for a second. Boxing is an addiction. It's my best friend. It abuses me. When I come to the gym, it abuses my body, my mind, my soul. I'm sure, I have to say, like, for me, that kind of is maybe him saying that, like, when he's in the gym, maybe that's the body, what he's having to put the body through, the mind, because it's not just physical, it's mental as well. You know, if your body is not doing what you want to be doing, you know, if it's hurting the body, the mind's going to be rushing and thinking, God, am I ever going to get through this? But afterwards, I feel like it takes me to ecstasy. The rush is unbelievable. It gives me the biggest high ever, but also gives me the lowest low as well. Boxing is more addictive than any drug ever. Wow, you can't let it go. You see that with fighters. Holyfield, I know with Holyfield it was kind of more money, but you see it with fighters who fight well past their prime. And it's like they can't let go. Roy Jones was a good example. You know, Roy Jones for me will always be one of, if not maybe my favourite fighter in his prime to watch. And I was only a little, when he was really in his prime up until he fought John Ruiz. How old was I when he fought John Ruiz? I would have been about 9. So I would have only been a little boy. I wasn't really watching boxing at the time. But when you go back and you look at the highlights of Roy Jones, you're like, wow, he was just phenomenal. But then you see, like, I remember, unfortunately, watching his fight against Enzo Maccarinelli, which was not his last pro fight. And that was just sad. Like, that was so sad to watch. And nothing against Maccarinelli, but seeing him do that to Jones was just like, no. You know, why? You know, why does that have to happen? Why can't he just walk away? And he had the gig with HBO, so he was doing all right in that sense. So you were like, why? Why can't you just walk away? It's been done for over a decade at that point. Just, that's it. And he couldn't. He eventually did, but, you know, you're just like, why? Why? I just could never understand it. Maybe it's the same with Fury. Now, I have heard people like John Fury say that they are worried when Tyson does walk away from boxing, because what will he do? Because you got to figure that Tyson, being the kind of guy he is, and doesn't say he's a bad person necessarily, but, you know, he is someone where if you take boxing away, what would he do? You know, and I'm not talking about that in a bad sense, but would he go kind of off the rails again? I'm sure that's a fear, obviously. Is that something that they'd fear? Is that something maybe Tyson has on his mind? Is that what's maybe kept him in the sport of boxing for so long? You know, it's an interesting read, and it's interesting to kind of try and look into it and delve into it and see kind of what you can make of it. It's very interesting. For me, though, it does kind of almost sound like he does have one foot out the door, which again, going to a rematch with Alexander Usyk, I've speculated that maybe Alexander Usyk is trying not to give anything away, and that he is talking about fighting the likes of Anthony Joshua amongst others post Tyson Fury, in a way to kind of mislead Fury into thinking, oh, he's looking past me, and he's planning on having fights next year and so on and so forth. When I think it's very likely that Alexander Usyk could have one foot out the door as well. He just doesn't want to go and say it. And judging by what Fury is kind of saying there, it kind of sounds to me like he is almost got one foot out the door. Is the passion really there? And I've wondered about that for a couple of years now, because I don't want this video to go on too long, but when you look at a fighter in their fights and you see certain things, especially in crisis situations, you're kind of like, I wonder what's going on mentally. What is he actually thinking? Because if you remember the trilogy fight with Deontay Wilder, which happened nearly 3 years ago now, when he got dropped in round 5, the first knockdown was heavy. He went down again the second time, and when he was down, and bear in mind it was near the end of the round, he was A-okay. But when he went down the second time, he had this look on his face, not in a sense of he was hurt, because he was never, like, he was down. He was obviously stunned by Deontay Wilder, but he recovered. That's the time he recovered fairly quick. But he had that look in his face, I don't know if other people picked up on it, of like, do I want to do this? Do I want to go to the well again? And he did, but you could see in his face at that point, and a few people picked up on it as well, that Fury was maybe looking even then 3 years ago and saying, do I really want to do this again? He did. He got up, he won the fight. But 3 years later, he's now 36 years old. How much really desire is truly there? I still think he will go ahead with the fight with Alexander Usyk, and I think that with Tyson Fury, he may be looking at this fight potentially as his last. If that is the case, maybe that is the kick up the what he needs to bring the best out of himself. He can't go into this rematch thinking that Usyk got the decision on sympathy. He can't do that. He's going to lose. He'll lose even handier this time. He needs to right the wrongs that he did, mistakes I should say, that he did in the first fight. He made a lot of mistakes. Showboating was one of them. It may want to be a technical mistake, but he gave so much away by just showboating and letting Alexander Usyk get combinations off, letting Alexander Usyk hit him to the body, letting Alexander Usyk outwork him for the majority of the rounds, certainly the early rounds. So he can win this rematch, but it's going to take a monumental, Herculean effort. It's a very interesting read there. I'd encourage you to go on Box and See and have a read of the article yourself. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. I hope you enjoyed the video, people. Smash the like button if you could, and subscribe, of course, as always, if you haven't already. Peace.